Information, facts written here have been taken from the Cowboys of R&AW by B.V. Raymond, Chief, Counterterrorism, Research, and Analysis Wing. The then Cabinet Secretary received an emergency flash from the Delhi control tower that unidentified terrorists have hijacked an Indian Airlines plane, and have taken it to Lahore, Pakistan. Soon after receiving the emergency flash, the Cabinet Secretary called the Crisis Management Committee of the Indian government and B.V. Raymond. While B.V. Raymond was yet to enter the meet, the Crisis Management Committee suspected the involvement of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, JKLF, in this hijacking. Soon after B.N. Raymond entered the meet, he denied the role of Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, JKLF. He strongly suspected the involvement of Dal Khalsa, a Khalistani terror outfit. As soon as the Cabinet Secretary heard this, he started laughing at B.V. Raymond. Raymond left the meet, walked back to his office. By the time B.V. Raymond reached his office, his personal assistant informed him that there were continuous calls from the Cabinet Secretary and he was wanted at that meet immediately. When Raymond reached the meeting, there was an officer from the Ministry of External Affairs. He said that the terrorists have disclosed their identity, they are from Dal Khalsa. Chief Secretary asked Raymond how he knew the involvement of Dal Khalsa. B.V. Raymond said that a few days back, the reporter of New York Times had gone to the Golden Temple to interview the chief of Dal Khalsa, Gajendra Singh. In that interview, Gajendra Singh said that Dal Khalsa would begin operating like the Palestinian Liberation Army. Chief Secretary asked whether the reporter told Raymond this. Raymond denied this. He said that, when any reporter of an international media sends any sort of communications to their head offices, they would be tapped by the R&AW. A couple of days back he had read one of the interprets. The plane was taken to Lahore, Zia-ul-Haq, Pakistan's then military dictator, assured Indira Gandhi full cooperation. The Pakistani authorities easily convinced the terrorists to leave the passengers. The plane and passengers were sent to India. India asked Pakistan to hand over the Khalistani terrorists, as it wanted to punish it in India. Pakistan disagreed to this. The Khalistani terrorists were trailed in Pakistani courts and were sent to jail. This was not a trial but a joke. The Khalistanis were taken to a Gurudwara, where they enjoyed. When the plane landed in Pakistan, IZ recognized that Khalistanis had plastic revolvers. It replaced it with real ones. It sent the hijacked plane to Dubai, where the UAE authorities were waiting. The terrorists kept the in a charter plane. Indian authorities also landed in the UAE. It consisted of officers from IB, R&AW, ME and Civil Aviation Ministry. They too kept a few demands: all the terrorists must be handed over to them. The revolver, given by IS, also must be handed over to them. After getting this information, Indira Gandhi was very unhappy. She asked the Secretary of Ministry of External Affairs to negotiate with the UAE authorities. The then secretary was very close to the royal family and the officers in UAE. He easily convinced the UAE to accept India's demands. After this development, a charter plane was taken on rent from an American company. It had Indian security officers from R&AW. The UAE told the Khalistani terrorists that it was a plane for them to go to the United States. As soon as they entered the plane and shut its doors, they were arrested. The crew too were shocked as they didn't know that there were R&AW officers in the plane and it was taken on rent by the government of India. A big salute to B.V. Raymond and his R&AW team. Their cleverness saved lives and got hold of those who played with the lives of Indians. Thank you for tuning into News Tap Global. Do like this video and hit the subscribe button below.